Cole. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm excited to do this, man. It's going to be awesome. So before we get to the serious stuff, I was trying to be a good podcast host. I was doing a little research, and you're a huge comic fan, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So what's serious? So who's the favorite? Are you a DC guy? Are you a Marvel guy?
I am not a DC guy. I'm a Marvel guy. I stopped buying comics about 15, 20 years ago because I was spending far too much money on them. I was getting out of control. I mean, probably even, I say 10, 20 years ago now, it's probably more like 20, 25, because I still for 10 years ago. The 90s weren't 10 years ago. But there was a big thing where they used to do multiple variants of each cover. So you'd have like 7 different covers, but the same comic inside, or they'd put a different card, and I'd be the sucker that would buy
every one of them.
Every single one of them. But yeah, apart from, so big Marvel fans, Fantastic Four was my favorite.
Really? Okay.
X-Men. And then I used to just kind of buy, when they did crossovers, I would buy other ones. But then I read other things like Hellboy, The Crow, for more independent ones like Kitchen Press. I was a big goth in the late 90s. So The Crow, when the film The Crow came out with Brandon Lee, that had a massive influence on me. Huge. Okay. I used to, I grew my hair long, dyed it black, used to wear a long leather coat, white makeup on. I was the full works.
Are there pictures of that floating around somewhere? Because we need to see those.
Oh, there is. There are pictures around there. Crushed velvet shirts. A lot.
That's fantastic. So are you about to jump out of your skin for April 26th? Is that when Avengers Endgame releases in the UK?
I think it comes out on the 24th or 25th.
Okay, you get it before we do.
I've got to kind of keep blinkers on. I mean, the thing is, I've got the Infinity Gauntlet and I've got Infinity War comics, but the movies always change things a little bit, so they may pull some surprises. So I don't want to hear.
All right, so no, I was gonna say no spoilers for everybody.
No,
we don't wanna...
definitely.
We don't want to.
Don't enjoy people that put spoilers up, even if the film's been out for a year. I'm not a big fan because other people haven't seen it.
Right. Well, that's super interesting to know, and I love the backstory on the Crow because I think that you mentioned goth, and I got to imagine that goes a little bit into some of the brand work that you do, because I've seen some of the, so they're all really cool, but some of the really cool ones that you've done recently that you've been sharing. So
I went from goth to I went from like pop music at school, and then got into a little bit of rock stuff, and then really got into goth, and then industrial, which is kind of metal mixed with sort of dance rhythms, and then you got goth industrial and stuff, and then I went into metal, and then I started DJing heavy metal nights, and now I'm just I like all types of music though. It's not just,
which is interesting. So like I said, it's so cool just to hear that, because you can see those influences in the work that you do. The marketing, brand consulting. Yeah, I was gonna say, has it come out yet? There it is.
That's the sign off on all my YouTube videos and stuff. And it's one of those things, and we'll talk about this later, I suppose, but when it comes to branding, is that you have to have an identifier. You have to have that thing that people will remember about you. And it's one of the reasons that I grew this.
Right. Yeah. So we're doing some video here too, and folks who can't see it, Cole's got a very distinct brand. So if you get a chance, go check him out.
I've got one of those T-shirts that tells you what you are, depending on the length of your beard, and I'm just short of wizard.
I was gonna say you got to be close to Gandalf, right?
Yeah, I'm just short of wizard, and it's just to make up for those that don't watch the video. I am completely bald up top. I used to have really long hair when I was a goth. Like it was basically, my hair used to be down to where the length of my beard is. And then started to recede a little bit. So shaved it all off. And then the cap, baseball trucker cap, became something I wore all the time. So when I walk into a networking event or maybe go to a conference, it's amazing how many people know who I am. I don't know who they are,
right?
But they recognize me because of the beard and the cap. And obviously if I'm in England, the Scottish accent kind of just makes it clear that that's who I am. So it's really cool. It works. I could never shave this off now. It's a brand asset.
Right. I was going to say, you follow your own advice with branding and things. So Well, we'll definitely get around to the branding talk, but for the listener's sake, if you could share a little bit of your background, how you got to where
Sure.
you are, your experience, and those things.
I'd always been, as you know, I'd always been interested in comic books. I think I got my first comic book, um, American comic book, not the UK one, kind of is like the Dandy and the Beano and stuff, but American format type Marvel ones when I was probably about 8 or 9, and really got into it and used to kind of draw the panels, redraw the panels and stuff. And then I was always interested in art at school, so I did art whenever I could. Went to college. I wanted to go to art school, but I didn't have a portfolio, so I went to college. I applied to college for a portfolio course. And I didn't get on the portfolio course because I didn't have a good enough portfolio, which was the biggest catch-22 that I'd ever heard of. I was like, well, how do you get on the portfolio course? So anyway, I didn't get on. I'd left my portfolio, the work I had there, and it was because it was raining that day. I didn't want to get wet. And then I got a phone call from someone who ran another course, an interior design course, and said, hey, hope you don't mind, but I was looking through your pieces of work, and I'd done a project called Exits and Entrances, and it was drawings of doorways and buildings and stuff. So I really love your sense of space and things. He said, we have a space on the interior design course. Would you like to take it? And I was like, well, yeah, I've left school. I had nothing else to do.
Why not?
Yeah, okay. So I joined the interior design course, and I was the only male on that course. It was all females and me. 6 months in, someone left the graphic design course, or no, someone wanted to do interior design. They were doing graphic design. It wasn't for them, and they said, I think they kind of saw that interior design was not for me. And so they said, would you like to shift over? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So that was quite difficult because I joined a class. They'd been together for 6 months, all great friends, and I'm the new guy. But I became really good friends with a lot of them, and did 3 years, did my graphic design qualification, and then wasn't ready for the world, and went down to an open day at the local art college in Dundee called Duncan of Jordanston, and it's got a really good reputation in the UK. It's one of the best ones in the UK. It's part of Dundee University, and went down there for their open day, bumped into a guy who had a Donald Duck bow tie on and thought, he looks cool.
He looks different.
Found out his name was Peter, and he'd just started an animation course, a degree level animation course. That sounds really cool. He's like, oh, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, I would be interested. So I joined that, and I did that for 3 years. So I've got a degree in animation as well,
Very
which I
cool.
never use. But we learned a lot of things. I learned a bit about video production, and it was all, hand-drawn animation, some early 3D computer animation, because that was 1995 to 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Internet was just kind of really kicking off. And so graduated from there, and back then everybody was kind of trying to get into like the games industry and stuff. Turns out that, like a lot of universities, the qualifications we had were great for getting your qualification, but it wasn't what industry were looking for.
Oh, interesting.
So it's different now. I think colleges and universities speak a lot more tightly with commercial industries because it makes sense, and you'd think it would make sense then. So we were going out there thinking, we were being told you'd walk into, £40,000 a year job, you got your degree. So we were all like, woohoo. And so about, 37 rejection letters later, I ended up working in a call center, selling flowers for 6 months, which was soul destroying. Then I got a job. Great. The thing, it was soul destroying because it wasn't what I wanted to do, but also soul destroying in that the majority of the workforce doing that were all university graduates who couldn't get jobs.
So you'd all come out with these thoughts of where things were going to go, and all of a sudden you just can't.
Yeah, all different kinds of degrees. And then I saw an advert for basically not graphic designer, but a Mac operator. No, actually I got a job in a local print shop, and I quit that after 4 weeks because the guy who ran the place was just not a nice man. It wasn't, and I was back then. I'm quite shy. Back then, I was super shy, really, and I couldn't handle the stresses of just. I could do the job. I couldn't handle the stresses of how he ran that place. And I was like, I can't do this. And I left. That was when I went to then I got a job in the call center, and then I left there and I got a job as a Mac operator in a little video production company in a tiny little village outside Perth in Scotland. It was my foot in the door to where I wanted to be.
Yeah. So did you start to feel it was coming at that point?
Yeah,
Is that when you first
great
thought,
little
oh, here we go?
company, a lot of travel every day, even though it was only by car. Now that I can drive, I could get to there in half an hour, but I had to get the train to Perth, and then I had to get a bus from Perth out to the village, and it took an hour and a half, so it was like 3 hours, for very little money at that time. But I was there for 3 years, kind of worked my way up to sort of head of the design department, which was just me, but I was head of that department.
You were head.
But the difference between the guy that ran that business and the previous one I'd left was that he really looked after his staff. And, my wages went up really a lot, almost tripled in 3 years.
Wow.
But I started to spend to that level, and then I lost my job there, and I ended up working in the Virgin Megastore. So going from sort of, £25,000 a year down to maybe 5 if I was lucky, because it was part-time. It was difficult time. Then I got another job as a designer in a company. Then that company went bust. Back to Virgin for a bit. Then I got another job, and I just I worked in a few different places as a designer. And then the last one I worked in as head of studio, again, the way the manager ran that was through fear. And he enjoyed that he ran it through fear. He felt he got the best out of people that way, through fear.
Terrible way to lead. That's not a leader.
No, I felt physically ill, mentally ill every day. Going to work, and then when work would finish, I'd be thinking about having to go in the next day. So I lasted 3 months. And this is a signal. I was apparently the longest lasting person.
Wow.
In that position.
3 months in.
3 months was a record,
Wow.
And again, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So I told phoned my wife at the time one lunchtime and said,
I'm done.
I'm going to quit. I know we need the money, but I can't do this anymore. And she kind of stood by me. And so to not give him the satisfaction, I told him that I'd got another job, because I didn't want him, because he's the kind of guy that would just...
Sure.
Yeah. So I left that and I started my own business.
Wow.
Because I had nothing else. I had nothing to lose.
Right. That's an interesting place to be.
I did, actually. And this is, I know this podcast is about like the ups and downs and stuff.
Sure.
But before I did that, when I say I had nothing to lose, I literally had nothing to lose, because when one of the previous businesses went bust and I lost my job, I had to sell my house because I was going to lose my house. Sold my car, sold everything. So I literally was at the bottom. I was this close to bankruptcy, this close. And so I sold my house rather than lose it, so that I could get something from it. The housing market was pretty good at that time, so I was able to pay off everything that I owed. So I started my business at least owing nothing.
And when was that? Do you remember what year that was?
2005.
2005, you sort of go off on your own. And I'm curious, before we talk about the company itself, where was the idea to be an entrepreneur? Where did it come from? Is there anyone in your past that you saw as an entrepreneur and you thought, I want to do that? Or was it it sounds like it could have just been, hey, I have to do this. I have to make something work.
I need to do something. It'd been in my head, it'd be good to be my own boss. But I just didn't have the courage to do it. It took being
forced
rock bottom and not able to get a job, but going, I'm pretty good at what I do, I think. And it's funny thinking back now, because I'm so much better than I was when I was
right?
It's really weird how things move. But I was living I was living at my mum and dad's at the time as well. My wife at the time, I had like a 2-year-old son, 3-year-old son. It was tough, really tough.
Right.
And so I still have an issue around money today, because I now only buy things if I have the money. I don't have credit cards. I don't have loans. My business is, and I know it's sometimes to improve your business and expand, you need to take loans sometimes.
Sometimes you got to invest, right?
Forward.
Right.
And I do feel that the experience that I had around money has held me back in terms of growth. I'm too scared to spend money, but that's now changing. And that kind of, this week it changed,
Right.
It
just sounds like you learned bit by bit over time and through some hard.
Yeah, I didn't have anyone. I was learning everything. I'd never run a business. I'd never done sales. And all of a sudden, I'd never done accounts. All of a sudden, I'm having to do all of this with no experience. And all I think, and this isn't, and I hope this doesn't come across like that. I in an egotistical way. The only thing I had going for me was people liked me.
Right.
I got on well with people.
Well, I think that's an important thing to point out. And the audience knows I love to stop when I think there's something really good to hear. And I don't think that's egotistical. I think it's a great point to make. It is because business is a lot about, know, like, trust, right? We hear that all the time. All talk about
it. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's all about relationships too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do
and
that's
my strong point. That's what I feel I have going for me, is that I connect well with people.
Right.
I'm quite softly spoken. I'm not in your face. I'm not like an aggressive salesperson. If anything, I am the worst salesperson in the world. I would do everything for free if I could, but I know that I can't. I have to make a living. My business is 14 years old, and I look at other people. There's a company in Scotland called Made Brave, a design agency in Glasgow, and I love them. I love what they do. It's amazing. Their work is amazing. And I know Andrew, who runs the company, and they only started, I think, 2012. I think Andrew started his, same as me, on his own a couple of years before that, but he's now got 30 plus staff working with massive brands, but I haven't got that drive. He was like, right, I've got too much work on. I need to hire someone to help me so that I can bring more work on. I didn't do that. I was like, right, that's as much work as I can do. And that was it. Or I would get an amount of money in and I would go, right, okay, I can pay the bills this month. Right. So I think what I'd done was I'd created a job for myself. I hadn't, not in an entrepreneurial way where I was creating a business. I was creating a job to fill one that I'd walked away from.
Absolutely. And somewhat out of necessity. I mean, you have to replace that. It's hard to
so I wasn't thinking, so I wasn't thinking, right, I need to make an income plus profit. For me, the profit was my income.
Right.
So, and it's only literally, and you'll know as well, the Content Marketing Academy, it's only literally in the past 3.5 years or so, 4 years maybe, when I took the plunge. I had £3,000 left in my bank account. I was treading water. I couldn't physically do any more design work than I was already doing, but I wasn't charging enough. And I spent the last of my money on a business coach. I went, I need help. And what Laura did was give me confidence. That was what she taught me the most. She gave me kind of sales techniques and stuff, but some of it wasn't for me. It felt a bit like I was tricking people.
Right.
I know it isn't, but it just didn't feel like right to me. And Laura was like, that's cool. You have to do things in your own way.
Absolutely.
The biggest thing she gave me was to see that it isn't, and I used the word egotistical. I always felt it was a bit kind of, you had a bit of an ego if you went out and said, well, even if you said to yourself, I'm good at what I do. I deserve to be paid more. I'm worth more than this. So I'm going to charge more. I couldn't do that. I would go, no. Imposter syndrome, I suppose.
Yes, for sure.
And be like, no, you can't. You've just done this yourself. You've not been trained by anyone, famous or in the design world or that. So I just kind of kept plodding along. But she gave me the confidence. I moved out of a crappy little office into one which was kind of modern, and it made me feel better. And I, just kind of mindset change. Then I started doing content marketing and inbound stuff. That was a slow burn, but what that's done is bring higher value clients to me and let people. It's actually let me see that I know more than I thought I did.
Yeah, I think you're so I'm going to give you some props myself, because I think you're being awfully humble. Your work is amazing. You clearly know what you're doing. You do great work. I love watching some of the stuff that
All
you
right, see, this is
design.
I can't take. I'm
Yeah,
terrible.
I know you can't, but I'm just going to tell you, and that's okay. Here's again, more lessons out of this for listeners, right? I mean, a lot of this is all true for most people. I mean,
Yeah.
let's get real for a second. There are mornings I wake up and I think, I don't want to do this again today. I just don't want to do this anymore. It's just how it works. It's the nature of running a business. It's ups and downs. That's part of what this is all about. And so I appreciate your transparency and just sharing that story with folks. I mean, it's just hard, but your work is amazing. Why don't you, so we've sort of hinted at it. Tell people what Pixels Inc. does for people.
Okay. I suppose I should probably, from when I started, Pixels Inc. was, Pixels Inc. graphic design. And one of those things that you learn as well is that you presume everyone knows what graphic design is, but not everyone does. So I'd maybe design a business card for someone and they'd go, do you know anyone that could maybe do a poster for me? Well, yeah, I could do it. Oh, do you do that as well? Oh my God. Okay, so it's not as, and this is what I've learned when I started doing my YouTube videos as well, is that you have what you hear the phrase, the curse of knowledge, and that you think something's basic and it's not to someone else. But I thought that's like less than basic. How do you not know that? But so I started off and I would design stationery, posters, flyers, brochures, websites, just anything that anyone needed to market their business, that needed visuals and design. And obviously I'd done my animation degree, so I knew a little bit of kind of After Effects and things like that. So I was like one of those, jack of all trades. Just if you need it designed, I will do it because I need the money.
Right.
I need the money, and I wasn't charging much either. I was, I think back about what I was charging, and it's like, and I still do it a little bit to this day. I will make a price in my head, and before the client has even said anything, I'll discount it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why?
Yep. It's just a confidence thing.
Yeah, it is, because I don't want them to reject my first offer and go, what if they say no to that? Tell you what, I'll discount it. But then they may reject that. Then I'm going even lower. So that was one of the things. It took me a long time to, and if you speak to people that know me now, they'll say that I still do it. But it's not to the same distance. So what happened was, as I went onwards, I stopped doing website design because I hated it. Wasn't my core thing, and it's just the technology changes all the time. So I was like, you have to be a web designer all the time. It has to be your main thing because you need to keep up on it and all the rest of it. So I stopped doing it, and I started doing it again because people were asking me for it, and the money was actually higher for website design, but at the same time it took longer. So it was kind of a bit, if I did a business card, I could turn that around in a day and get paid for it. Website designs could go on forever and ever and ever.
Right.
But when you've got not much money coming in, I think, as business owners, we do kind of grasp any offer of work, even if I shouldn't be doing this. What if something comes in tomorrow that's my perfect job? I can't do it now because I've committed to this. They paid me money. I have to do it for them. So as the time went on, I decided that I liked logo. I like looking at logos, and I like designing logos. And I think the reason I like designing logos is that you have a much more in-depth relationship with your client, because you have to find out how they tick.
Oh, yeah, nice.
About, and and I'm honest to this day in that my service now, I have a process that I follow, and the price reflects the process that I take. But when I started, if someone said, I'm a builder, I'm a bricklayer, I need a logo, the logo I would do would probably have bricks in it.
Right.
You know, it was very literal. It was like, all right, okay, do that, you know. And as I went on and started to read more myself and, you know, watch other people's work and go, why is that? Why does that work so well? You know, they're a bricklayer, but that doesn't say bricklayer. Maybe it'll say it in the tagline, but the logo doesn't say it. It just looks really cool and it gives off a sense of they're quite a big company. And how does all that work? How does that? Why does mine's look like it costs £50? That one looks like they've probably paid thousands for it. Why? What's the difference there?
What
I could design
discover?
that. Yeah, I could draw something like that, but that's not what I've done. Well, how have they managed to not do bricks? What's the difference? So I learned about brand strategy. A key thing to say here for the folks listening is that some people think brand strategy is what you do when you have your logo. You create a strategy for marketing. That's a marketing strategy. Brand strategy is before you do any design work, and that's where you come up with your core values, your purpose, your vision, your mission statement, your buyer personas, all of that. That then sets who you are as a brand, and then that's the platform that you design a visual to represent. Awesome. And then once you have your visual, you then create your marketing plan. Okay, how are we going to get this out to our audience? So it's a key thing because people do mistake brand strategy for the after bit. It's the before bit.
Yeah, you see it all the time. People think that a logo has to, as you say, be so literal and just include exactly what they do. And it's so cool for you to hear.
I'm not saying that it
can't.
That sometimes it doesn't work.
Right.
Sometimes it does. But, you know, if you see, you know, an airline with an airplane going around the globe, you're just like, oh, you know, it's too cheesy.
Well, Cole, is that how you get logos to stand out, is by using what you just talked about? I mean, it's using mission and purpose and everything.
One of the interesting things is I'm more than happy to say that I am not the best designer in the world, and I'm not. What I am good at is creating logos that work, and there's a difference. You know, you see, I see cool logos all the time, and I'm like, I am super jealous of the guy that designed that or the girl that designed that. You know, there's guys and girls out there who are designers who are like super talented. But what I'll say to anyone listening who is a business owner and looking for a logo, when you're looking for a logo designer, obviously you want to like what they're doing. You're like, that's pretty cool, I like what they've designed there. But what you should be doing is finding out is that for an actual business, or has the designer just set themselves, right, okay, I'm going to do a logo for a shoe business because they have a cool idea for the logo. That's not how it works. It
wasn't designed for somebody specific.
Exactly. It doesn't take into account the audience, the age group. This is just the designer going, I've got a great idea for a shoe logo company. They'll draw the logo and they'll put a company name underneath it and they'll put it on their website. And you go, that's so clever. That's got negative space, which is where you've got hidden shapes that you don't quite see first time. And so I used to beat myself up a lot about that, going, oh man, I look at my portfolio and I look at this guy, my portfolio is the design work's solid, but there's not a lot of clever, like, you know, hidden symbols and stuff. It's all, and I was like, what is my stuff? And I'm like, well, it's functional. It does a job. And that's the difference between a designer and an artist. A designer has a job to do. The visuals they create must fulfill a task. They must solve a problem.
Interesting.
Art is to, you know, enjoy and
entertain. Yeah.
And entertain. There's a difference.
Right.
And so when it's functional, you know, then, you know, when it's like, you know, form over function and all of that, and you're like, well, my logos work. I've done my research. We're targeting 45 to 65-year-old males who have a leisure spending budget of this. they read these magazines, they hang out at these types of clubs, they watch this type of movie. So that means that they'll probably be attracted to like a bluish gray, because that, if we look at where they hang out, and then, so we want this typeface which will reflect their age. If we can get a little bit of retro in there, so they're 45, 65, so they'd be teenagers in the 80s. Let's bring in a little bit of retro in there that they'll be like, oh, I remember that. All of that goes into a logo. And that takes a lot of research. And that's why, as well, be careful when you see a logo being designed. We'll design your logo for $50, unlimited revisions until you're happy.
Right.
That shouldn't happen, because a logo designer should be able to design a logo based on a process and research and present to you a concept that's pretty much near the final solution. You'll have a bit of to and fro with the client. Maybe you could tweak this or we could tweak that. But if someone's like, what about this logo? That doesn't work. Okay, what about this one? No, that doesn't work. What about this one?
Right.
No, that doesn't work. It's like a magician who's like,
because they didn't bother to research. I'm so glad you're sharing that right there, because that's people need to back that up about 2 minutes and catch all of that. That's such gold. I mean, because I've done it myself. You in the past, you work with people who do logo for you, and they're asking you what you want. And would you agree that is maybe wrong?
It is. The interesting thing for me is that the more I charge, the less questions I'm asked by the client, because they trust me. Now, I'm not saying you could just start, you've never designed a logo in your life. You set up a website saying, I design logos, I charge $25,000. Doesn't mean that the client's not going to ask you. You have to be able to back up what you've got. And I think that's where the content marketing side of thing comes in. And that's where you show your expertise through knowledge and advice and, being helpful. And then by the time someone's ready to come and work with me, they're like, I don't need to ask Col any questions. He knows what he's talking about. And so I'm going to trust when he says, I know you like yellow, but yellow's not the right thing for your audience.
Awesome.
It's actually a color you hate. We're going to use green. And you have to go, okay, I'm in this, it's a business. I'm here to make money. If green's the color that's going to work to bring customers to me, green it is.
So you touched on something there I'd love to hear you talk more about. So there's a lot of people, a business is someone's baby, and I think the name and the logo sort of become part of that baby. Do you see that a lot with
my favorite phrase is, the logo is not for you.
Oh, so good. So good.
It's not for you. You have to like it. You have to like the design, but I find that what happens is the client will like the concept once we do the process and we okay, here's your customers, right, okay, they like this. And then as we're going through the process together, when I present a concept, they're aware of what we're trying to achieve, and they're like, oh, that fits beautifully what we're trying to do. I might not like triangles, and I might not like green, but a green triangle is perfect from all the research. And so they love it in that way.
Right.
Whereas you, again, with no process and just, you're a gardener, let's do some shears or, a rake. Then you're just becoming then your business, it will be fine, because people will go, that's a gardening company.
Right.
But where a logo with a process and works is that because you've gone through the process, it shows that you're thinking about your target customer, your target audience. Your brand you'll be able to charge more. I mean, I can't guarantee these things, but it's just through stats, like from the design industry, that if you do the legwork, then you've got a better idea of who you're targeting. It's all, you buy subliminally. You don't buy when somebody says this, buy my thing. It comes down to the trust, and it comes down to emotion. And so that's why, color is very important, because it's an emotional thing. If you're in the financial industry, that's why most of it's blue, because blue is like a safe color. It's calm, it's collected. You want that with your money,
Right.
So when you have people where it's like, it's maybe red, and red usually means you're in the red.
Right.
It's like, whoa, but virgin, money, their logo is red
Red.
because they want to stand out. And they're like, yeah, we're different. We're going to make you do things to make you earn your money. And we're going to be a bit more risk taking. And so the people that are like, yeah, to make money, you need to take risks. You need to gamble a bit more. So that'll attract those people. And so you don't know this if you don't research who you're trying to sell to. And the most frustrating thing when a client comes to me and I'll say, right, who's your target audience? Oh, we can sell our thing to everybody.
Anybody. Right.
You know? And I'm like, well, we're going to be at this for a long time, you know? I understand why you're saying it, but let's really, you know, so I've got some questions that I can ask them that quite quickly makes it's not everyone, is it? You know, and it gets a little bit, who's got the most money that you think would buy stuff? Who's got this? And, okay, so we're now narrowing it down, and you get more and more narrowed down.
So what I'm sensing is a good logo really helps promote the brand to tell the story of your business.
Yeah, I mean, the logo's a tip of the iceberg. There's a great designer from a big agency called Sagi Haviv, and he did a great TED talk about designing a logo and kind of the processes that they went. They did, I think they did the National Geographic logo and stuff, you know, which is just a square. You know, it's like my 5-year-old could have done that.
Okay, yeah.
But would they have done that? There's a reason that it's that, and it's to frame the world, and it's the shape of the cover, and there's a lot of meaning in it. But what he said a great thing. He said, your logo, when you first have it, you might pay $50 for it, or you might pay $5 million. It's an empty vessel. It's actually worth nothing. Even if you've paid $3 million for it, it's worth nothing. Because what happens is over time, as your brand does things and people see these things that you're doing, you put these experiences go into your vase, into your vessel, and your brand builds up recognition, awareness, reputation, trust. The bad things go in there as well. It's not just all good things. It all goes in and it all mixes in. And so he says when it starts, it's an empty vessel. And a lot of people go, right, I start a business, I need a logo. But the logo's not going to do anything because everyone thinks that they need a logo because everyone recognizes Nike's logo or Adidas or Apple. But when they started, they had no reputation.
Well, yeah, who knew what a Google was before it was Google, right? I mean, it became a verb.
It is. Now, there's a difference where, you know, you got big businesses who have big marketing budgets. They can fill their vessel more quickly because they can spend more awareness. But I'm a big believer in filling that vessel slowly or just with the right, you know. So when you blanket market, you are going to have bad experiences because you're going to be like, you know, selling to people that don't want to be sold to and all, because it's that we sell to everyone. So it all goes in. So it's a mishmash and firefighting and stuff. But if you take it more slowly and you build your brand the right way with the target audience in mind, with a message they want to hear, and you know what kind of stories they like to hear, you will fill your vessel with mostly positive, which means they will refer you more and they'll talk about you more in the right way. And then you've got a really nice filled jug of, you know, brand reputation and all of that. I only heard that about 1.5 years ago, and it's really stuck with me. It was like, it made my job easier because I could say to clients, now you're paying me this money, because that's the thing as well. So when people say, okay, Col, you're like £4,000 for a logo. Why am I paying that when I can pay that guy on Fiverr $20? I went, here's my process. What's their process? The logo is the end of my process. It's one part of it. Mm-hmm. But the way to say, I can't, if I said to, you know, if I'm trying to sell a service, if I say, you know, if I try to sell it in what I do, and maybe I can, I've just not thought about it enough, but it's research, it's development, it's brand, so it's brand strategy. But and then there's a famous story. I think it was Paul Rand, who's like a big logo designer, and he sat with a guy who's wanted a logo, and so they sat down and they had a little meeting, like half-hour meeting, and they were chatting away. And Paul Rand's like doodling away on a bit of paper, and he goes, "Oh, so you know, like something like that." And the guy's like, "Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need." So they went away. Paul Rand went away and sent me an invoice for $100,000 or something like that. And he was like, what's this for? So it only took you 5 minutes. Yeah, but it took me 20 years to be able to do that in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you pay for the skills someone has gained,
and again, it's like, I think there's another story as well, isn't there, where the guy, there's a problem on a ship or a submarine and they can't find it. And they bring this guy in and he just walks in and he hits it with a hammer and it starts working and he charges them $50,000. And they're like, but all you did was hit it on the hammer. But I knew where.
That's exactly right.
So it's all different industries and we all have the same problem of value, people valuing what we do. And graphic design has become such a commodity because of sites like Fiverr, that people just go, I'm not paying that when I can pay that. But, I don't like getting into the Fiverr argument. I think Fiverr is useful for some things, like if you need a social media graphic, something with some words on it and an image to promote a blog post you've done, great, do it. But don't base your brand identity on something you get from Fiverr. There's rife stories of people doing that, starting businesses up and having their businesses run for a couple of years. And then when the businesses get bigger and they start marketing more, there's more awareness of the brand. And then a stock library goes, that's one of our stock images. You can't use that as a logo. And that's what happens on Fiverr, because a lot of the designers on Fiverr are from countries that don't give a
they have to follow those regulations
or trademark law, and they'll just give you something which looks really professional and very well done, and because it's a professional piece of stock artwork that they've just went, I'll take that. And they won't even pay for it. They'll just download it and they'll just rub out the watermark. And it's just, I'm not saying everyone's like that. I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush. I'm just saying, is that worth the risk to do that?
Not just that, but is it?
I think it is.
And is it telling the story of your brand?
It's not. It's a quick fix. And there are times where I'll have startup companies come to see me, and they'll be like, okay, I need a logo and stuff. And I'll say, no, you don't need a logo. Here's some stuff. Go away and do this. Run your business for 6 months to 12 months. Just type your name out in a really nice typeface, which kind of reflects your personality. And I'll give them some guidance on that. And that's something that I started a service called a Power Hour, where people can pay me for an hour, and you can do a lot in an hour and give them good advice. Then they can go away. And then once their brand, they've got their strategy and they've done it themselves. Because that's the thing. People can go and do this themselves, but a lot of people find it difficult and they need a bit of guidance. But you can do most things yourself. Because what I'll say is, if you get a logo designed when you don't have any strategy or idea of who your audience is or who you are, really, a lot of people don't know who they are. They just go, I've been doing this hobby. I can crochet. I'm going to start a crochet business. Okay, cool. And people do it all the time, micro businesses. But they don't understand what's the purpose, why they're doing it. Is it just to make money? Probably not. It's probably more, there's other things behind it. And so I'll say, if you spend money on if you spend £4,000 or something on a logo now, there's a good chance in 12 months' time, once you've started trading and you start dealing with customers, they'll be asking you for things that you'd never thought of, or maybe it's the wrong, or maybe you thought you were going for the over 50s, but actually, the people in their 20s are actually really grasping this thing.
Right.
For them, they love it. And so you're like, our brand really doesn't fit.
Yeah, they're having to make a pivot.
Time to spend another bunch of money to get our brand to work. So I always say, just have a nice, type your name out, make it look pretty nice, right color, operate the business, and then spend money on a logo. Because having a good logo is not really going to make that much difference to how your business is going to run in the early days. It's not. It'll give you a little bit of help with your branding and, brochures and stuff like that. But you should be concentrating on the service and the product that you offer. I have the same conversation with designers. Designers spend an inordinate amount of time trying to do their own logo, and it's the hardest thing ever to do your own logo. My logo is deliberately simple because I'm not focusing on platforms
too.
Yeah, and I'm not focusing on selling to myself.
Right. Your logo is not for you.
Yeah. So I don't want people to come to my website and go, oh, I really love your logo. Your logo's really cool. Kind of something like that. I want them to look at the work that I've done for customers and go, we like the approach you've done there. We like what I want. The best thing that I hear is when someone says, we love how you solved that problem. Not we love that logo. We want something like that, but your business isn't like them. So it's not going to fit.
Yeah.
If someone understands the problem, I know they're going to be a great client, that they understand that they're here because they can't get more customers. How can we get more customers? Great. Let's solve it through design. Let's have a look at what you're doing and how we can maybe change it. So that's where I've grown as a designer. I'm no longer just about, doing business cards and stuff. I think more deeply into it, and I'm now not pivoting, but I'm starting to move into doing more workshops and brand strategy days. And I love teaching it to groups, so that I did one 2 weeks ago at a local university. So I love being able to teach 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are entrepreneurial in mindset and want to start their own businesses, but also for people who want to go into an employment. Brand strategy can help you with your personal brand. It can make you an attractive employee if you understand your own brand. And if you can by understanding branding, you can understand the brand of the people you want to work for, and you can position yourself that you are right for their values. You'll be culturally the right person for them. So it can really, really help. You'll have an advantage over someone who's got the same qualifications if you truly understand. And it doesn't take much. I mean, the workshop I do is like an hour and a half. It's not a huge amount. It's just enough
to understand
that you know the brand strategy isn't the pretty pictures. It's the underlying stuff.
If someone wants to connect with you, where's the best place to do it?
Probably if you want to see me and kind of have a good library of learning from me, then my YouTube channel is probably a good first stop.
Okay, I'll be sure to link to it.
Yeah, so it's youtube.com/Pixels Inc. or Pixel Sync, however you want to say it. It's all one word.
All right.
There are a lot of videos on there. And then my website is pixelsinc.com. And from there, you'll get all of my social
They can find you.
Stuff like that. Yeah, from there, that's the easiest way to do it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. It's been
I've loved it.
Been a lot of fun connecting.
I've loved it. Thank you for having me.